Who are they, Daniel? I managed to ask, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and confusion. His gaze dropped to the photograph, and for a moment, I saw in his eyes the burden of a hidden life. A life with a family he had never mentioned. As he struggled to explain the complexities of his world, a world where duty and desire were at odds, I felt the fragile thread of our connection begin to unravel. Before we start, thank you for coming to my channel. Your participation is my happiness. Let me know where you are and what time it is now. Okay, now let's get into the story. I never expected that life could truly begin at 45. After years of dedicating myself to my work as an architect, designing homes filled with warmth and light, I had somehow neglected to build a life for myself. My days had become predictable: mornings spent sketching, afternoons buried in blueprints, and evenings lost in solitude, staring at the city skyline from my apartment window. But that changed one evening when I found myself sorting through old storage boxes in my home office. I had meant to clear space for new project files, but instead, I unearthed remnants of a past I had long forgotten: photographs of a younger, more daring version of myself. One image in particular caught my eye. Me at 25, standing by a coastal cliff, my windswept hair wild and free, my smile unguarded. It was a stark contrast to the careful, measured existence I led now. A quiet knock at my front door startled me from my thoughts. When I opened it, I found Daniel, my next-door neighbor, standing there with his usual easy smile. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he said, his deep voice laced with warmth. "I was about to grab coffee and thought you might want to join me." I hesitated, glancing back at the scattered memories of my past. Perhaps this was fate nudging me forward. "Actually, I'd love to," I said, surprising even myself. We walked to a quiet cafe down the street, the air crisp with the first hints of autumn. Conversation flowed effortlessly between us. Talk of favorite places, dreams left unexplored, and the quiet realization that neither of us had truly lived for ourselves in a long time. Daniel, a writer who had spent years ghostwriting books for others, confessed, "I think I've been so busy telling other people's stories, I forgot to write my own." His words resonated with me. I had spent my life designing spaces for others to build memories in, while my own remained empty. As the evening deepened, we lingered in the cafe, our cups empty but our conversation alive. There was something comforting in his presence, steady, understanding, and unspokenly familiar. When we finally stood to leave, the air between us held a new weight, an anticipation I hadn't felt in years. Outside, beneath the streetlights, Daniel hesitated. "Would you like to take the long way home?" I nodded, my pulse quickening. And as we walked through the quiet city streets, our steps fell into rhythm, the distance between us slowly disappearing. For the first time in years, I felt something stir inside me. A whisper of possibility, a promise of rediscovery. Little did I know this was only the beginning. The morning light crept softly through my window as I woke, still cradling the memory of Daniel's gentle kiss from the night before. His tender touch lingered like a whispered promise, stirring feelings I had long kept at bay. I found myself smiling at the thought, both exhilarated and a little nervous about this new chapter unfolding. Later that day, as I was sketching ideas for a new project in my small sunlit studio, my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. He invited me to a quiet park, a place he said felt like the perfect escape from the city's rush. With a mix of anticipation and calm resolve, I agreed. At the park, the air was crisp and filled with the scent of blooming flowers. We found a secluded bench beneath a canopy of trees, where conversation flowed naturally. We spoke of dreams long shelved, shared our fears, and laughed at memories of days when life felt unburdened. In one quiet moment, as the breeze played gently with my hair, Daniel's hand rested softly on my waist, a warm, reassuring touch that made my heart flutter. It was a delicate reminder that we were both on the same journey toward rediscovery. As the afternoon faded into a mellow evening, our connection deepened further. The subtle glances and soft smiles exchanged between us spoke louder than words, building a bridge between our past solitude and the promise of a shared future. We walked together slowly, the closeness between us growing with every step. By the time we returned to my apartment, the world outside had quieted into a peaceful twilight. Over a simple dinner prepared with newfound care, our conversation softened into comfortable silence. When the evening wound down, we settled in the living room, the soft glow of a table lamp casting gentle shadows around us. In that intimate space, I felt safe enough to surrender to the moment. As sleep began to claim me, I realized Daniel had moved closer. His head gently resting on my shoulder, his presence a tender embrace that whispered of both solace and hope. In that quiet sleep, I sensed that our lives were slowly intertwining, promising a future where rediscovery and shared passion could blossom into something truly beautiful. That evening, after a quiet dinner that left us both feeling light and hopeful, Daniel and I returned to my apartment under a sky painted with twilight hues. In the gentle warmth of my living room, the air between us began to pulse with a soft intensity. We moved closer almost instinctively, our lingering gazes speaking of unspoken promises. As we settled on the comfortable sofa, Daniel's hand found its way to the small of my back. The touch was tentative at first, a delicate brush of his fingertips along my waist that sent shivers of anticipation down my spine. I turned to meet his eyes, and in that shared moment, our longing became undeniable. He leaned in slowly, and our lips met in a tender, lingering kiss that felt like rediscovering a long-forgotten melody. With each kiss, our connection deepened. It was as if every gentle caress and soft embrace was a silent vow of trust and renewal. Daniel's arms enveloped me, holding me close as we lost ourselves in the closeness of the moment. His caresses grew bolder, his hand tracing light patterns along my arm, and I responded with a reciprocal touch that whispered of my own yearning. In the soft glow of the lamplight, the world around us faded until all that remained was the quiet rhythm of our shared heartbeat. Every kiss, every tender embrace, and every gentle touch spoke volumes, a dialogue of passion and healing that transcended words. In that intimate space, the past shadows receded, replaced by the warm promise of new beginnings, where every moment was a delicate blend of desire and comfort. As the night deepened, we continued to explore this renewed connection, finding solace and joy in the simple, profound act of being together. When dawn broke, soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, gently illuminating the quiet aftermath of the night before. I awoke to find Daniel still peacefully asleep beside me, his warm presence a comforting reminder of our shared passion. I couldn't help but trace a delicate finger along his shoulder, cherishing the tender memory of our deep, lingering kisses. As I leaned in to softly press my lips against his forehead, he stirred and smiled, our eyes meeting in a silent, understanding exchange. The morning unfolded slowly, filled with whispers and gentle laughter as we remained entwined on the couch. Each kiss we shared was soft and deliberate, each embrace speaking volumes about the affection and desire that had blossomed between us. In the quiet of the new day, our hands began to explore with a tender curiosity, Daniel's fingertips tracing the contours of my arm, and my hand finding solace on his chest. We spoke in hushed tones about our dreams, and the delicate hope of a future where passion and tenderness coexisted. The intimacy of our touch was a language of its own, a reassurance that in each other, we had found a safe haven to rediscover our true selves. Later, as we prepared a simple breakfast together, playful glances and subtle caresses punctuated our routine. The kitchen filled with light and the soft murmur of our conversation, each shared moment reaffirming the bond we were building. In those delicate, unspoken exchanges, a gentle hug, a lingering kiss, the warmth of an embracing touch, I sensed the promise of new beginnings and the courage to let our hearts lead us into uncharted territories of love and rediscovery. Thank you for listening to the story so far. Your encouragement means a lot to me. Please comment and share your thoughts here. I love you and I am so grateful to have you on this journey with me to explore the story further. As the afternoon light softened, our quiet sanctuary transformed into a haven where dreams and desires intertwined. After a leisurely breakfast, Daniel and I settled into the living room, our favorite song murmuring softly in the background. His hand, warm and gentle, brushed against mine, a small gesture that spoke of growing intimacy. We sat close together on the sofa, and soon, every casual touch evolved into a tender exploration. Daniel's fingers traced delicate patterns along my arm, while my hand instinctively found the curve of his shoulder. Each soft caress was punctuated by gentle kisses, small lingering presses against my skin that sent waves of warmth throughout my body. In that serene moment, time seemed to slow as our hearts communicated in silent whispers. His eyes held an earnest tenderness, and with every look, it felt as though he was affirming our unspoken promises. I could feel his touch exploring with careful reverence, his hand sliding slowly down my back, drawing me closer into an embrace that was both protective and electrifying. Our shared whispers filled the quiet room with an air of vulnerability and hope. Between hushed confessions of past dreams and the excitement of rediscovered passion, we found ourselves lost in a tender dance. Daniel's playful kiss on my hand, followed by the soft caress of his lips along my wrist, awakened a deep, unspoken longing in me. A reminder that every touch was a promise of more moments to come. As the golden hues of the afternoon began to wane into a gentle twilight, our connection deepened. In the cocoon of our shared intimacy, every embrace, every delicate kiss, and every lingering touch wove a tapestry of trust and renewal. I realized that in the warmth of Daniel's arms, I was not just rediscovering the passion of youth, but also embracing a profound sense of belonging. A space where every whispered caress held the promise of a beautifully shared future. After a serene afternoon that had gently set the stage for deeper emotions, nightfall arrived with an alluring promise of intimacy. The soft glow of the lamplight transformed my living room into a private haven where our desires could bloom freely. Daniel and I, wrapped in a tender embrace, allowed our vulnerabilities to intermingle with the passion that had been quietly building between us. Our kisses grew deeper and more fervent, every caress igniting long-dormant parts of our souls. In the midst of our closeness, as his warm hand traced delicate patterns along my neck and our whispered confessions filled the quiet room, I caught a glimpse of something unexpected. On a nearby table sat a small framed photograph, a snapshot of a joyful family moment. In the picture, Daniel was smiling warmly, surrounded by a woman and 2 children, their faces radiating love and togetherness. For a moment, time froze. The tender intimacy we had shared was suddenly overshadowed by a rush of shock and confusion. My heart pounded as I gently withdrew my hand, my eyes fixed on the photograph. "Daniel," I murmured, my voice barely a whisper yet laced with uncertainty and hurt. "Who are they?" The room fell silent. Daniel's eyes widened in a mix of panic and sorrow, and the warmth of our shared embrace dimmed as he hesitated. I never meant for you to see that," he replied, his voice trembling with regret. The revelation shattered the delicate harmony of our passionate moment, leaving a bittersweet ache in its place. In that fragile space between passion and betrayal, I was forced to confront a painful truth. The man whose touch had rekindled a flame of desire was already entwined in a life I hadn't known, a life that included a family. The night, which had promised rediscovery and renewal, now carried the weight of unspoken secrets. As our dance of intimacy came to a halt, I was left standing at a crossroads between the allure of newfound passion and the sting of a reality too complex to ignore. Shattered by the sight of that photograph, I felt the warmth of our earlier embrace turn suddenly cold. I stepped back, my heart pounding as the revelation sank in. The tender intimacy we'd shared moments before now seemed tangled with secrets. Daniel's eyes, once filled with gentle passion, now held a trace of regret and sorrow as he tried to speak. "I'm so sorry," he murmured, his voice faltering. "I never meant for you to find out this way." In the heavy silence that followed, the memory of our passionate kisses and soft caresses clashed with the sting of betrayal. I could still feel the echo of his touch, a lingering warmth that now felt both comforting and painfully deceptive. "Who are they, Daniel?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and confusion. His gaze dropped to the photograph, and for a moment, I saw in his eyes the burden of a hidden life, a life with a family he had never mentioned. As he struggled to explain the complexities of his world, a world where duty and desire were at odds, I felt the fragile thread of our connection begin to unravel. Torn between the allure of the passion we just kindled and the harsh reality of his secret, I found myself standing at an uncertain crossroads. The night that had once promised rediscovery now echoed with the painful dissonance of trust betrayed. In that quiet, charged moment, I realized that the intimate dance of our passion had taken an unforeseen turn. A turn that forced both of us to confront the raw vulnerability of truth and the difficult choices that lay ahead. In the quiet aftermath of that painful revelation, the charged intimacy between us shifted into a raw, heavy silence. My heart raced with a turbulent mix of desire, betrayal, and sorrow as I stood before Daniel, the photograph a stark reminder of a life he had kept hidden. His eyes, filled with regret and conflict, pleaded for understanding even as the truth shattered the delicate trust we had built. "Daniel, how could you keep this from me?" I asked softly, my voice trembling with hurt and confusion. In that moment, every lingering kiss and tender embrace we had shared clashed with the stark reality of his secret. A secret that now stood between us like an insurmountable wall. He reached out tentatively, his fingers tracing a familiar path along my arm. A gesture that once ignited passion, but now only deepened the ache in my chest. "I never intended to hurt you," he murmured, his tone laden with remorse. "I was caught between duty and desire, and I lost my way." For a long while we stood there, locked in a silent battle between the yearning for connection and the pain of deception. The intimacy of the night before, with its soft kisses and whispered promises, now seemed like a bittersweet dream fading in the harsh light of truth. As the night wore on, I felt the overwhelming need to reclaim the strength I had rediscovered in the past days. With gentle resolve, I stepped back from his touch, my eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I needed to find myself again, to feel alive and cherished," I whispered. "But I cannot accept a love built on secrets." In that fragile moment of vulnerability, we shared one final lingering embrace. A kiss that was tender yet filled with the sorrow of what might have been. It was a farewell not only to the passion that had rekindled my spirit, but also to the hope of a future with him. As I walked away into the cool night, each step echoed with the pain of loss and the promise of a new beginning. Though my heart was heavy, I knew that this painful encounter had stirred within me a deeper understanding. Sometimes rediscovery comes with difficult truths. And so, beneath the vast starlit sky, I vowed to honor my newfound strength, to nurture the passion within me, and to seek a future where love was honest and true. A future where I could fully embrace the dawn of a life reborn. And that's it for today's story. I'd love to hear what you think. Leave a comment below and share your feelings. Did you relate to any of the characters? Or if you were in their shoes, what decisions would you make? I'd love to hear from all of you. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't, hit one. Subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.